16 tons, low bass singer cover. Okay. I love when these come up because I never know what to expect. This is by Capriani, so thank you. I'm excited for this. It's Geoff.
Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. A muscle and blood and a skin and bones. You've got a mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You load of 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and a deeper in debt. Saying, Peter, don't you call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Say, Peter, don't you call me.
Capriani, you put this in because you love this song, and that's, I feel like, why everyone should put songs in. That's a fantastic reason to put songs into the queue. Geoff is an awesome talent, and his technique, he explains it well, he employs it well. He's an all-around, he's someone I aspire to be like. Being able to fluidly explain how to sing while also being an exemplary, being a perfect example of that technique. So Geoff Castellucci, everyone, fantastic singer. And he's a very nice guy, but you can tell by what he does. I'm well, RPG. How are you? Fantastic sound, fantastically mastered. I think he mixes them himself. Editing maybe, but like this is really cool how he's set up the cover to have all of his sounds there, and then the visuals only accentuate the way that he's singing. Geoff refers to himself as bass baritone, right? So he's not a true bass, or he doesn't call himself a true bass. However, low bass is definitely the kind of thing he's singing in. Deep voice is deep, and he really tastefully uses the microphone to record this, in the sense that, and he's talked about this, when he's doing this really loud, to get this really richness, this depth in the tone at such a low place, he employs this subharmonic vocal technique to go to much lower notes than this. But he also uses a lot of resonance in the mask and in the vocal track that wouldn't travel if the mic were farther than a couple inches away from his mouth. But knowing that, he uses the technique very intelligently. And that's what a lot of these newer covers on YouTube of people doing these really crazy vocalisms are about. Now, I'm not trying to take away anything. I'm trying to just help understand how it's working, because it's such a refined technique he's using that circumstances around the recording need to take place in order to make it work. So let's keep listening. Geoff's got such an awesome voice.
I can't go to the company store. Don't you call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Come on. Well, I was born on a morning when the sun didn't shine. I picked up my shovel and I walked to the mine. I loaded 16 tons of number 9 coal, and the strong boss said, well, bless my soul, you load 16 tons and wood.
Yo. So yeah, Runo, that's an awesome example of his range right here, as you're saying. You know, he's got an amazing range. So he arranges and records himself. Then he gets help with the mixing. Him and his wife do all the videos themselves. Super awesome. So this is just like a really exemplary vocalist who can produce himself and do things like that. You know, someone that is incredibly inspiring to a singer like me. And I'm sure so many more. I love hearing the layers in the harmonies he's giving. It's so clean. It's so nice. Even though the song is called 16 Tons, Geoff is in fact not 16 tons. That would just be silly. That would be so silly. But I love the layers he supplies. It's just an awesome example of the idea that just because your voice sits in a certain place doesn't mean you're constrained to that range, right? The lowest singers and the people who have the naturally lowest voice also are typically the ones that have the most facility with falsetto and higher extensions that don't require, you know, the continuation of head voice. Geoff's technique, as it sounds like when he describes it and how he's singing, is all rooted in subtleties and ease, right? Nothing was ever forced in what he does. He's not about the subglottal pressure. He's not about pressurizing the larynx in a way to make a crazy impressive sound. He's more about using the voice in its most natural ways to create very refined and finessed yet naturally clean sounding vocals. I hope that makes sense, because he sounds like a subwoofer, absolutely, because of this technique he has where he's found a way to arrange the larynx and organize the breath to create to go really low in his voice, and then use the vocal tract to bring out more of the harmonics in those lower tones, which he refers to this technique as subharmonic technique. It's fantastic because everything is so refined and intelligently done. So good. I'm sure he's done a Misty Mountain cover. But the same way he's approaching the high notes, he maintains the color of the sound in that falsetto place. He kind of maximizes the depth of sound you can get in those high notes without pressurizing the voice. We do a lot on this channel. We talk about amazing power singers from metal. This is sort of, and we talk about great opera singers too. What Geoff does is sort of the opposite of all of this. It is the opposite of power singing. It's refined, finessed. It's almost scientific the way he approaches. And I'm basing this off of how he talks about his singing in his videos. How he approaches this technique, and in the results, you hear that. You hear that in the specificity of sound in each layer and how it goes together. Yeah, it's really, really nice.
Do you get another day older and deeper in debt, saying, Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Yeah. I was born one morning in the drizzling rain. Fighting in trouble have been my middle name. I was raised in the canebrake by an old mama like an old white. Told a woman make me walk the line. Yeah, 16 tons.
Line. Right? And everything I just said before, that last segment can be completely invalidated if you can't be a performer like he is, There's a lot. I know for a fact there's a lot that goes into learning to sing like this. He says it himself. But the goal is not to sound impressive. The goal is to be a performer and artist with your voice, which is the most impressive and most important thing that he does. He says himself, it doesn't matter how low you can sing. It doesn't matter how high you can sing if the sound itself isn't good, right? So ignore strengthening your high notes, ignore making your head voice sound whatever, ignore getting the lowest notes you can. If the sound itself isn't there, if you're not on pitch, if you're not in rhythm, if you can't tell a story with your singing, focus on those things first. Focus on the fundamentals first. It's the most important thing. Floor says it in her master classes. It's the same thing across the board, right? And he, again, a perfect example of this. Something that, singers and coaches and teachers of music and any type of performer should live up to. Being able to explain it and do it well, right? He sounds like the trailer dude. But the trailer dude, the movie trailer guy, has a lot more steel in the sound, right? There's a lot more in the sound than with Geoff. With Geoff, it's all about ease and it's all about specificity. It's fantastic. It's like a shag rug of sound.
And what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt, saying, Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. If you see me coming, better step aside. A lot of men didn't.
That was just an example of his subharmonic singing, right?
Step aside.
That's crazy. That's so nuts to me. Even if I employed that technique, I wouldn't be able to get that low. It's nuts. No way. It's so good. See, and doing that, and yet releasing and keeping that part of the voice separate, doing it all down here with release and then allowing that to resonate in the vocal tract because you've disconnected these muscle groups. So awesome. And it's cool to hear all the other higher stuff too. It's really fantastic.
A lot of men didn't, a lot of men died. One fist of iron and the other is steel. Ride one wheel, you load 16 times. Another day older and a deeper in debt saying, Peter, don't you call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Cause I can't go to the company store. St. Peter, don't you call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Cause I can't go.
That's so awesome. So he says it himself, actually. When he goes down to low notes like that, he has to like eat the mic, which is it's cool. It's an awesome use of technology at your disposal combined with really virtuosic vocalism, because it's a great example of an amazing 21st century singer, not bogged down by old ideas, not super hyper obsessed with the future or whatever, but it's a great example of just ingenuity in singing. That's the word I was looking for. Geoff Castellucci, ingenuity in singing. Great teacher, great singer. We can all learn something. Very inspiring. And he's just a really nice guy. Yeah. Nobody has a natural bass without training. That's not true, Runa. I think there are very few, but there are natural basses. I've heard several of them, actually. It's mostly kids in high school and then musicians and agents and stuff like latch onto it. Yeah, I don't know. No, fantastic singer though. Really, really beautiful. Of course, like the low end of the male voice is something I'm quite distanced from, but that's how it is.